The Maroon White Pod brought to you by CityLink. For bookings, timetables, updates and any other information, head to citylink.ie. So delighted now to be joined by former Armagh footballer Aaron Kernan to get the Armagh perspective on things ahead of the All-Ireland final. Firstly, Aaron, at the start of the year, did you think Galway and Armagh would be here in the last two?
Well, certainly not. I think if any man showed you a betting docket and Armagh and Galway All Ireland final pairing is on it, I'll take the louder numbers off him as well. To be fair, like realistically speaking, winning Sam Maguire wouldn't have been on the radar in terms of maybe Armagh supporters. Winning Ulster was obviously the big goal. That has eluded us again. But it's fair to say we've embraced the opportunity now that faces us in terms of potentially winning Sam Maguire and having that won Ulster since way back in 2008. Galway, in fairness, I suppose the big thing from your own point of view, and you all would acknowledge it, was if you had a full team on the pitch and everyone was fit and ready, I think you've definitely shown over this past few years that you have the capability to be up there and competing. Yep, long story short, the likes of particularly Dublin, Derry and Kerry, I think would have been everyone's really top three as the league in that there was progressing. But I always say whoever wins out of the championship, the best team always wins them. We're down to the last two, and we have a big week ahead.
Well, what's the excitement levels like up there at the minute?
Oh, it's crazy to be fair. It's off the chart. I suppose that's maybe one wee advantage that the likes of Cork and his players will have over your neck of the woods in terms of you've all been there only 2 years ago. And even a small thing, the fact that like you've won the three Connachts in a row, or you're quenching the thirst in one way of your supporters. You do heighten expectations whenever you pick up silverware. But just being in that winning arena, picking up trophies, coming out and take games like you have done this past few years, that's brilliant for just genuine confidence within your players. And then I don't think it creates as much hype in terms of your whole county. So yeah, it's fair to say like I don't know if there'll be any work done for the next 10 days or next week over here. It's all everyone wants to do is talk football, talk tickets, talk tactics. There's not much interest in work, but wasn't it brilliant? And this is again, I said this wasn't on the radar for us, but everyone is fully embracing it. It's 21 years since we're in a final. We've only ever won it once, and the reality is these days come around every 20 to 25 years in our history, and so we will fully embrace it.
I know you've stopped playing in club now, but to even have the cross lads involved and yourself as a supporter, is that special?
Fuck, it is. It is absolutely. And even whenever we won back in 2002, we had seven boys in the panel. Obviously, Dad was managing them. So it's a special time for the county, but you just feel that bit prouder that I'm in the coffee shop this morning and you see Cian McConville coming walking in and you just give him a quick nod and that. And to be fair, you don't even want to talk to him because he's sick talking to people. But yeah, just the fact that you have people in your local community that you've played with or that you've seen coming through the underage ranks. It's very proud to see them going up and performing at the biggest stage and representing our club and our community. You're no different than all your clubs over your neck of the woods. So it is. It's definitely it's very very special and something that we're proud of. And then also something that's not lost and is how important it is for the next generation in terms of just they know that someone's from this town, so everything feels possible, and that's the joys of the GAA is that your heroes are always in your own community, and be that someone who maybe leads your club to winning a junior championship, or in this case where you have boys that are getting to play at the ultimate stage in an All Ireland final. The joys of being involved in GAA is that you get to be that role model to influence the younger people in your club, and I suppose the the sense of pride and maybe that the older generation can get out of what you can do in the football field. It certainly was never lost on me, and I'm sure it's not lost on the boys at this stage.
Your clubmate Reen gave summer interview after the Kerry game.
He did, and he's not a man for words now, to be fair to him. he generally likes to lead by actions, but it probably was a bit of a release of emotions for them all because let's be honest, it had become a bit of a laughing stock, and people wanting to throw jabes and put the boot into them, with every penalty loss that they've had this past few years. I think it was only natural that he let a bit of an outburst out of him, and it was good because like I said, he's quiet. He tends not to do a whole pile of media, but to be doing a bit of media whenever you've picked up a man of the match award after starring in an All Ireland semi-final, no better time to do your talking then, because he clearly had done it in the 90 minutes that just had passed.
Just on this, because there's been so much heartbreak over the last 2 years, even if you look at last year, losing the Ulster final to Derry on penalties, Monaghan on penalties in the quarter final, even penalties this year at the Ulster final. What's that journey been like when there has been such low points and there has been, I suppose, negativity around maybe their mass supporters as well?
Um, well, I suppose that you're trying to put your head in players' shoes. It'd be very difficult because you're so close and you're just coming up short, and like you can be sure that every scenario has been talked out in terms of what they do whenever it comes to the clutch moments at the end of the game, in terms of how you work that winning score, how you try to stop your opponent from getting a shot off, and then equally just the way things went. We were all ended up in penalties, and I'm sure every scenario was talked through, and that practice was put in place. So for them, I would say it was very, very tough to accept that you're so close and yet they were constantly coming away with absolutely nothing to show for it, be that Ulster titles or even making it on to that All Ireland semi final. So the fact that like the Ulster final this year now was cruel, in terms of even just me as a supporter, and you're there with your family. It just was exhausting. It was draining. You were just heartbroken for them all because literally now coming out that evening, I didn't see a way back. It was that low. It just, what could you say? Like the players and management looked like they were disorientated. They didn't know where they were going. I was sitting in the stand looking at them. They didn't know which direction they were walking. They didn't know whether they were going to laugh or cry. And they didn't know whether to embrace each other. So it looked like rock bottom from them. And I found then seeing the draw, who we were coming up against in the All Ireland series, it seemed like it was going to be just too big to be able to pick themselves up. But I think that's what's made the past 6 weeks even more remarkable, the fact that they have been able to go through that All Ireland series, and whatever Galway injuries or Derry had lost the form or whatever, that's not really Armagh's problem. I think they dealt with everything, they've come through it without having lost again. And then the fact that they've built on that in terms of the semi-final or the quarter-final semi-final, it has just been a remarkable turnaround for them. So yeah, the players, it's maybe a bit of a relief just for them that they have eventually been able to get that wee break of luck, maybe in terms of the Gleason kick out in Sligo, or Shane Ryan fumbling that ball last weekend. We haven't seen the rub of the green in recent years. So we will absolutely take any wee bit that's coming our way at this stage.
It's safe to say though, like no one can doubt this Armagh's group's resilience because it's the one key word that this group are.
Yeah, I suppose maybe it's a hallmark that you always say that a team reflects your management. And so in terms of having Geezer and then Kieran Donaghy, Kieran McKeever, Conlon Gilligan, players who have done it at the top level and players who would be resilient and stubborn, they've absolutely rubbed off on this team. And to be fair to the players, you have to give them a huge amount of credit because management can do and say whatever they want. They can point you in the right direction. They can facilitate everything. But ultimately, you have to live inside your own head and inside your own thoughts. And you have to be the one who goes that extra step and who runs yourself to a standstill, who chases that lost cause, like maybe Paddy Burns did in the second half last week, whenever it looked like Kerry were just going to Wall Street, put the ball in the back of the net, game over. He doesn't even get a block at the end of it. But the fact that he didn't give up, that he sprinted back, that he dived full length, and if nothing else, maybe just Thomas Sullivan caught him out of the corner of his eye, and he done enough with that sprint back to put him off. That is the difference. That's the type of resilience that has got them to where they are now. And again, it's something that as you mentioned, it's a trait, it's a hallmark of them this past few years in terms of they are there at the death in every big game. And again, yes, ultimately they haven't been able to come out on top, they haven't picked up any silverware. But that is one massive core ingredient. Obviously, they're good enough footballers too, but that resilience to keep coming back and keep wanting more has been something that obviously that's why the Armagh support have really got behind them, because all ultimately you want is a team to represent you, that you can be proud of, that give a true reflection of how you feel about football or how football means to you. So even though these boys haven't picked up silverware as of yet, they absolutely have given supporters so many big days out, and so much enjoyment and so much to be proud of.
The Orange is a sight to see, and there'll probably be people listening to this podcast hoping for Galway to outnumber Armagh. But it's the most you've kind of seen Armagh get behind their team, the supporters.
Probably just in recent history. Like I know from going back to my own playing days and going back to whenever sort of the run started from winning Ulster in '89, Armagh have a terrific fan base across the whole county. And that stretches right down from us here in South Armagh, right up to North Armagh and Lurgan, and hugely, hugely passionate about the county whenever they have something to support, whenever they have something to really get behind and rally behind. So yeah, it's no coincidence that you're ending up going to the latter stages, because one goes hand in hand. Obviously, the players have to have the quality and have to do what they have been doing, and then in turn, that absolutely generates the support. Like there would always been a really good core base of support within the county, but absolutely, whenever you have a team representing you the way these boys have been this past few years, that there just grows and swells massively. But no, it is like from '99 right up until 2008, that was something that I was very familiar with in terms of the earlier days of that. I was obviously going as a supporter myself, and then very fortunate to have been part of teams that were playing in Croke Park or were winning Ulster titles, and that was something that it just gave you an absolute huge buzz as a player. Where well, I know people do say that they don't take heed of what's going on in the stands or what's going on in the crowd or whatever, but geez, I absolutely did. Sure, to me, that's what it's all about. You know, I also have a great sense of pride that you're able to pull on a county jersey and represent so many people who are so passionate. So it's just great to see, like that last day Jack O'Connor referenced it. As soon as we get a sniff with that goal, the Croke Park just came alive. It was crazy, the noise that was there. So haven't spoke to the players directly, but I would have no doubt that that gives you that wee bit of energy maybe whenever you feel like you're running in an empty tank. So that was massive from the supporters.
Just before we get in and look at the final, in your own career, would you have had many battles against Galway?
Um, Funny, I actually made my debut, my first ever game. I came on as a sub in Salt Hill. The legendary Michael Donlan was running riot at that stage, and threw me on for the last 10 minutes to try and run in his wake. But geez, always something that you're proud of, to say that he even ended up in the same field as a legend like that there. But no, not really. They knocked us out in 2013 in the All Ireland qualifiers over in Salt Hill, and probably the warmest day that I've ever played a game of football on. Maybe quite a few league games that we would have come up against them, but no, unfortunately, that's a big regret I have, is that your marquee counties like Galway or Mayo, Cork or Kerry, Dublin, never really got the opportunity to come up against them as much as I would have liked, because you always want to test yourselves against the biggest counties and the best players. And yeah, unfortunately, I never got to. But yeah, become friendly just through the years with a lot of the players, maybe just fit through international rules and that there, the likes of Finian Hanley and Michael Meehan. So just good people, great players, but good people as well, and good company. So there is yeah, there's always that bit of admiration, I suppose, growing up. The Galway team in '98, I was standing in the canal end in front of Tomas Mannion whenever he threw the wee dummy and handed the ball off to Michael Donlan before he went in that famous run up the field. So a year till Sunday, I think I played it to death. whenever I was younger, growing up, I could tell you every quote and every move out of that there. The younger ones mightn't realize of the video at that stage, if they know what a video is. But yeah, even something like that had a huge influence on myself growing up because just those boys, the football they played, the style that they played in, they were just such a cool team to follow, and then to get that access where Comer produced that documentary. It just was incredible, and one that even I have even watched up to the recent years on YouTube.
Yeah, I think it's a ritual now for every Galway fan to watch it before the match. That's what it's becoming. You just mentioned Michael Donlan there. Was he one of your toughest opponents that day?
To be fair, I was under 21 that year. He was running away on our senior players, so I was sent on to do a damage limitation job, and I'd say he wouldn't even know I was there. The fact that I just ended up on the field and was given the job of trying to track him for 10 minutes, that in itself was an experience. But growing up and watching him and just seeing what he did and how electrifying he was, the likes of him and Porrick or Sean O'Dwyer, those boys were definitely they were the type of players that you were going out and you were trying to sort of replicate and copy. I like say in around those boys 98, I probably you maybe in around 15, 16 years of age. So definitely a very impressionable age, and I'm sure there's plenty of people in Galway are in the same shoes as we were all around the country where you're trying to follow players of that stature.
Just on this game, Aaron, I was only saying to someone recently, isn't it great that it's ended up in a Galway and Armagh pairing? It's the first time since 2010 where Kerry, Dublin, or Mayo won't be involved in an All-Ireland final.
Yeah, it is. It's great. I just think it brings a freshness. I suppose we're stuck right in the middle of it, and of course we love it. But I'd say just the country as a whole, everyone would be excited by it because as much as you love and you admire what Dublin have done this past 12 years, or you would also have huge admiration maybe of the history and traditions that Kerry have going to Croke Park and those big games clashing against each other, you can get sick of it as well. And so definitely the fact that we've thrown up a new pairing, an All Ireland final that has never happened before. I would think, yeah, across the country, it's definitely a game that's going to grab the attention nationwide. And I think that's brilliant. Just for the GAA in general, I think it's brilliant. I think things had probably become a bit stale, and that's not Dublin's fault. That's up to everyone else to go and try and catch them. But I think just particularly your game, the Dublin game, I think
Yeah.
it just gave everybody a shot of belief. Where the championship was literally blown wide open that evening, and everyone who was had the four teams heading into the quarter final, and we're going in with genuine aspirations that they could make the final and then ultimately go on to win it. So, yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great for the GAA. And I think it will do wonders for every county across the country now, where they will see a glimmer of hope or a few key areas maybe that they can make incremental improvements on ahead of next year, that they can maybe close the gap, and they would genuinely see themselves as potentially being All Ireland contenders next year.
When you look at the games we met you, it's nearly been a rivalry that's brewed since 2022. 2022 obviously had the penalties. Carrick last year, Markovich Park this year. Even in between that, we played you in a game up in the league in the Athletic Grounds, and it was very close. Like, do you think with those games you've seen that we can expect maybe similar coming up now in the All Ireland final?
Yeah, well, obviously the first day out in Croke Park, it was such an unbelievable game. It literally was nearly a shootout. And to be fair, we rode our luck in terms of the fortune we got with two late goals whenever you looked like you were home and hose. But it was probably the most open and expansive. Since then, I think both counties have had a rejig in how they set up. And I think literally as this year has gone on, I think probably both counties, whether it was through injury or whether it was adapting tactics, for about 18 months lost their way. And I think literally as the All Ireland series has gone on now, I think they're playing into form. And most importantly, I think both counties are starting to find the perfect balance between being defensively solid but still being able to rack up enough scores to win on the biggest days. So I think that's something. It won't be the ultimate high scoring game that one was in 22 in Croke Park. I think what we've seen over this past 18 months since then, like you mentioned, in Carrick and Shannon, in Markovich Park, and then that, well, let's forget of that league game 1-8 to 1-6. Less out of
Yeah.
that, the better. We'll focus maybe more on championship football. That was an old boring, cold, damp evening, and so we'll scratch that one. But the championship ones, everyone says they're winning All Ireland now, and to get the Croke Park, you need to be hitting over 20 points. I'm not sure it would need to go over 20 points to win this All
Yeah.
Ireland next weekend. I think maybe somewhere between 15 to 17 could be enough to see Sam Maguire heading to whichever county hits the highest tally on it. Because I think defensively, both teams, I would say, are the best defenses in Ireland are Armagh and Galway. And like I said, definitely over this past 4 or 5 weeks, I think we've found a better balance in our game in terms of still being defensively solid, but utilising where our strengths are, which is the same as your own, getting the ball to the best players in the field, to the best forwards in Ireland as quick as possible, and letting them do the damage.
It's kind of going to be similar, really, I feel, to a lot of intercounty games this year where we've seen maybe the control side to football at the start, and then that kind of 10 last 15 minutes where we're probably eventually going to see a bit of chaos appear then.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. There might be a point in it, or it'll be a draw at half time. So let's everyone go with full intentions that's what happens. Whenever you're going out the back of the stands to have your chat, you know what you're going to say already. And then I have no doubt about it again, football is going to break out. And it's who can bring that bit of flair, who can bring something off the cuff, who can show that bit of X factor, while still being stingy in defence and not leaving your stuff open. That is going to be the ultimate. And I know that like this game is going to the wire again. We're going to be sitting in 65 minutes. One thing's going to be up to a point. We're all going to be edge of the seat, biting fingernails, and it's who's going to hold their nerve at that stage. To get there, there'll be a burst in both teams in the second half where they might go on a run where it could be 2 or 3 scores. Like similar, maybe it would take something similar to what you did against Dublin, where you just went in that burst of getting shots off. And even though there was a few times you didn't, there was maybe 3 wides nearly in a row from really good positions. It was the fact that you were creating the opportunities in the areas that you knew that the tide had turned in your own favour. And similarly, we were the exact same last weekend against Kerry. Whenever we got that goal opportunity, just a surge of energy and scoring options from all over the place. It just become infectious with our lads. So I have no doubt that will absolutely happen in the second half next weekend. It's whoever makes the most out of that burst whenever that opportunity comes. Because what those opportunities give you then is gives you the opportunity then to press kickers, to smash a ball, to get on the break, to get 2 scores within a minute. You know, that, like even something as small as that, those 2 scores in a minute, there mightn't be 2 scores in the 10 minutes previous, but those 2 scores will just bring the place to life for whoever manages to get them. And then can you build on that there again? So just given the quality of players that they have, and I know ourselves, particularly the quality of bench that we have in attack, would be something that we would be absolutely looking to go after in the second half.
Do you see Armagh sticking with the same starting 15 that started against Kerry?
I do. Geezer is very loyal to his players. I would be very surprised if he made any changes. Now, I know there are players who are coming on and they're absolutely ripping the place up, and there's people scratching their heads probably wondering why they're not starting, or you should be starting your best team, but it's probably the way Gaelic football has just developed. I can't say if I was managing that it would be the way I would manage. My opinion would still be I would have my best players on the field from the very start, but we seem to be getting a huge kick off the boys coming off the bench. They seem to, whether they like it or not, they're embracing it and they're delivering. So I'd be shocked if there was any changes outside of maybe an injury that was picked up. Yeah, I think Geezer has, since the All Ireland series, he's had a very steady hand to pick, and hasn't changed. And he seems to get his timings of his substitutions and that they're spot on as well, which has obviously huge in terms of how they've finished games so strong and remained unbeaten.
Fair to say your top performers this year have been McKay, McCambridge, Grimley, Reen, and Connor Turbot.
They probably have, and the remarkable bit about that is McCambridge and Grimley didn't even start in the Ulster final. Grimley wasn't even in the squad for the Ulster final.
Mm.
He was an unused extended panel member. So for me, well, the All Ireland champions, they always dictate who gets the most All Stars. But I suppose from the outset now, I would be stunned if Aaron McKay and Connor Turbot aren't nailed on for All Stars at this stage. I think Aaron, in terms of his leadership, his bravery, and how he's commanded the full back spot has been outstanding. And Connor this year just has played on a consistent level like he hasn't done before. He just looks at the players absolutely at home now at county football, full of belief. And yeah, he's a player obviously we're clearly going to need a big game from. But I think maybe a bit like yourself in terms of you getting a lot of ways back. I think for one reason or another, we've absolutely stumbled upon our best team and have key personnel all over the place. Like Barry McCambridge, the game in Markfitch Park, he sort of comes into the team because Paddy Burns gets injured. You know, to me, he is our best out and out man marker within the county and always and has been for a number of years. So the fact that he's got back and got a run of games and is doing so well, he'll obviously have another huge game ahead of him next weekend. But he has obviously been brilliant and very solid. And then, as you mentioned, Niall Grundy just offers you that attacking option as well. He's a huge man, which we would need again against ourselves. Huge
He had a
man, very.
serious neck injury, didn't he?
He had
Right.
2 bad years. So
Yeah.
so in 2022, he broke his neck in training before the championship started. So he missed the 2022 series. So he wasn't available for that game in Pro Park. And
Yeah.
then in the early part of the National League, at the end of the National League last year, before the championship started, he done his cruciate. So he didn't feature in the championship again last year. Now he was back for the latter end of the club campaign, played club championship actually against ourselves. And I don't know, I'm not in training, but maybe it took him time to build back up to his full potential and full match sharpness. But you can see now from his performances that he is clearly hitting top form whenever we needed most of him.
There's a lot of talk about football of the year at the minute. It's a lot of things. Obviously, supporters like to talk about it before a big All Ireland final, but it seems at the minute that Dylan McHugh and Connor Turbot are the two big favourites.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. And it really depends who wins. Will pick up footballer of the year. As I've just mentioned about Connor, just the consistency from him, the leadership that he shows, just the pace that he and confidence that he's playing with. He's come to be our go-to man. I've lost count of the amount of things he's picked up man of the match awards for us this year. But as someone who was a wing half back as well, just huge admiration for Dylan McHugh. Just suppose he sums up Cara Finn
Yeah.
personified, isn't he? Just class, composure, skill. And the one thing about him that I love is the simple things well.
Yeah.
Everything is just 8 out of 10 all the time. Defensively, 8 out of 10. Passing, 8 out of 10. You know, vision. He just does the simple things well. That was something Dad always said to me growing up. Just do the simple things well, and that's what I love about him. I love about his game. And then I think the big one that he really has added as the championship's going on is his scores. He was so good on the ball, so composed, brilliant at taking others into the game. But it's his timing of the runs now. And again, I think that comes back to the point I'm trying to make, where defensively now you're very solid, but the right balance is there in terms of the ball's being played through the lanes with yourselves. But the more that pattern happens, I know as a halfback, the more you start to time your runs better. So he's not up, like the ball's not with a half forward and he's 5 yards ahead of him. He's just timing perfection. So if you can imagine in your own head now the scores he's getting, it's landing in a half forward hands, and he's just straight off that shoulder, catching the weak shoulder of an opposition defender. He's on the edge of the D, and he's the ability right left foot to put the ball over the bar. So yeah, I would fully agree with you. I think whoever wins, and if those two boys have any sort of a decent game in the All Ireland final, they'd be my front runners for football of the year, absolutely.
Dylan McHugh is a man from an Armagh perspective that they're going to have to come up with some sort of a plan for. Is it just simply going to be Joe McElroy to go after him?
Just a bit that I still haven't figured that all out in my own head. I don't know whether it'll be Joe McElroy. It could potentially be Oisín Kennedy. Does Joe McElroy have to go back to wing half back to pick up Killian McDaid? We have, I think we have a lot of homework to do in terms of, see, physically, in terms of stature, your boys would be way bigger around the midfield and our half back lane in particular, so your half forward lane. So it's how we match up with that I'm still not sure. I'm jotting down names every evening whenever I go home, and I'm tweaking who I think they're going to go to. But it could be McElroy, it could be Tiernan Kelly who could come up the field to do, or it was Oisín Kennedy who did it against Ryan McHugh in the
Yeah.
Ulster final. He scored 2, maybe 3 points in play, kept Ryan McHugh scoreless. So it might be a case of he's given that role and that task on the day, because Joe McElroy might be needed elsewhere.
Do you see 2022 as an advantage to Galway heading into this game?
Um, I would say all 3 games. Well, I would say particularly Markovich Park and the Croke Park one. I think again you have to take off your rose tinted glasses in terms of mine being orange and white. Like, you were 6 points up in Croke Park, the game was over. And granted, you had an extra man whenever you went that late burst, but I just felt Galway were the better team on the day, and that's hand on heart. Also this year in Markridge Park, I just felt you were able to keep us at arm's length. I felt you were just in complete control of the game. And the one thing I would say is now once we got a sniff in terms of that goal, I thought we played very aggressively, and I thought we went after and earned the draw rightly. But I think there's so much that PJ and his management team and the players can take in terms of positives from those 2 games in particular, just in terms of what they did, what they would have planned, and seeing it coming off. That it's very easy to do a bit of video analysis to build on that there. But I think definitely the last 15 minutes of Markford Park is something that will, because it's so fresh and so new in your head, that again, there's video analysis that you can pull out of that there that doesn't be too long, getting the pulses race, and just to keep you grounded to say that we still have a job in our hands until Sean Horsham blows the final whistle, and these boys can't keep coming at us. And so that's something definitely that will be in the back of their mind as well.
Is the biggest improvement you've seen in Galway since that Markovich Park game is how they've closed games out?
Yeah. Well, I suppose the biggest improvement that I've seen was whenever they had all the excuses under the sun in terms of injuries and 3 weeks in a row, and we're playing Dublin and Croke Park, and they're 3, 4 points up, that in your own head you could say, you could convince yourself that I'm tired, convince yourself we've too many injuries, we haven't had a chance to train properly, we haven't had a chance to hit form, and those excuses were kicked to one side, and you went after Dublin like a freight train and did the job. And so that burst and the confidence, the genuine confidence that you take from that there, I would say would be the biggest improvement. That I would say, like, no matter what PJ could say to the boys, that is worth a million times for any words, because that's the stuff he would be telling them, that's the sort of stuff he'd be reassuring them. But till they go and live it and experience it, sometimes there can always be that wee bit of a doubt there. So that would be a huge improvement in them. But similarly, what happened last weekend with ourselves in terms of coming from behind to beat Kerry, and the fact that it's Kerry, the same as we beat in Dublin, that, like, more than any All-Ireland semi-final win or Euro quarter-final win, it just carries way more weight in terms of what it gives you in terms of the genuine confidence, genuine belief that what this management team is telling us is working, or the belief or the faith that they have in us, I need to have that in myself. And so I think that's the biggest thing that both teams will take into this weekend, that it's a bulletproof, genuine, and it's not a flaky confidence that they will be getting into. So it's, can you have that, harness that, focus on that, but not get distracted by maybe the sideshow that is an All Ireland final. That's the fine line that management teams then need to get right with the players.
Obviously, whoever wins this, the county is going to go bananas and it's going to go on for a few weeks. But if you're to call it now,
Armagh by one. Um, I said it, yeah, it's going to the wire. But I don't know. I have a feeling this just past few weeks. I was confident enough going into that Kerry game. I thought if we could just hang in there, that we've just been in so many fights, so many battles. Jeez, it had a change of sometimes a bit of fortune, didn't it? So I hope we haven't worn it all out in that Kerry game. I hope there's still a wee bit more. But either way, Big Joe was half Galway man as well, so I don't know whether we can take a wee bit of happiness out or not. But not, geez, we'd be gutted if we don't get
will
across
he
the
be
line.
wearing the will he be wearing the half and half?
I will absolutely not be wearing the half and half. I will be full orange and white. But I know, like I said, just in general terms, that I always had always just had a liking for Galway, whether that was through my grandmother, who was a Ballinasloe woman, a proud Ballinasloe woman,
Very good.
or even just that growing up in that Galway team and just admiring them. So yeah, most years, just the past few years, you would have said, yeah, I'd love to see Galway getting back winning, and particularly Joyce coaching them as well. So, geez, who doesn't love Joyce? That he is just such a legendary player. And seeing him coming back in and trying to do his bit for his county, but wouldn't mind if he could prolong it for one more year. If he can keep him for a sixth year and give him a rattle at it again next year.
Yeah, I don't think many people will be agreeing with you now listening to this, but
That's fair enough.
yeah, but that's all we do have time for. Great to get the Armagh perspective on things, and thanks a million to Aaron Kernan for coming on.
Cheers, Paul.